There we go. Well, welcome. Thank you so much for joining this free webinar on how to set up an employee onboarding process that actually works and how to do so in under 2 weeks if needed. And over the course of today's session, we're going to cover a lot. We're going to start with a little bit about me and my embarrassingly crappy onboarding story about how I failed an employee in one of my businesses. But then we'll talk about how bad onboarding more broadly is hurting businesses, and particularly your business. We'll look at the mistakes that most organizations make, and we'll explore a better approach to onboarding that addresses and avoids those mistakes. We'll then go deep into the step-by-step approach for how to set up onboarding in a way that actually works and gets you really good results with happy, confident employees who are up to speed quickly, not making lots of mistakes, and ultimately freeing up business leaders lots of time. And I'll even be able to share a checklist of how to do that, as you'd expect from us. Of course, we have checklists for how to set these sorts of things up. And we'll then dive into how to move quickly when your new joiner starts in less than 2 weeks, or even in less than 2 days, or even 2 days ago. I can show you exactly how to get that set up, even if we haven't got a lot of time to get that in place before they join. And then we'll dive into some Q&A. We'll give you an opportunity to ask me questions. I've been very fortunate to work with to build both my own businesses with a fantastic team around me who have brought huge improvements and their own ideas and so on, so that we create something truly special at the organizations that we've built. But also I've worked with lots of other organizations, both big and small, and I'll explain a bit more about that. So stick around for the Q&A. Okay, let's get started. So let's start off with a little bit of an embarrassing story from my side. Me and my crappy onboarding story, because hopefully most of you think of me as this successful serial entrepreneur, CEO, board member, advisor, consultant, and indeed some of those are definitely true to a great extent. I have a background. I used to work at PA Consulting. I was a process consultant and worked with a lot of amazing organizations, then set up my own consultancy with my co-founder, Paddy, who's joined the call, and welcome, Paddy. And we worked with a variety of organizations, helping them with their ways of working, their processes, including organizations such as IMI PLC and AstraZeneca and all sorts of companies like that. Together, we also set up SpiderGap, a software tool for supporting employee development, and through that have worked with over 500 organizations around the world. In fact, 558 within the last year, not even total. And have done that by building our team, been working with well-known companies, including Pepsi and Fitness First and Sony and so on, and 3M. We then built Air Manual together, which hopefully you know a bit about what Air Manual does, but essentially we make it much faster and more effective when you're sharing processes and onboarding. So as a result, you're able to get people up to speed faster, reduce mistakes, and free up hundreds of hours of leadership time. So I've had a lot of experience working with large businesses, small businesses, on how to improve their ways of working, how to make their processes efficient, how to make it possible for them to do things effectively, reduce their mistakes, and actually, one of the big things more recently has been about empowering the teams. And that's something that we've been really big on in our own companies, is empowering the teams to document and manage their own processes and improve ways of working, onboarding, and so on. So that's something that we've done over the last few years, and indeed built an amazing team of fantastic people that have been onboarded and are super happy and confident and growing in their roles. However, it wasn't always this way. I was not born a great manager or leader or anything like that. And in fact, only 5 years ago, back when one of my businesses had just one employee, I found out whilst on a AGM trip with my co-founder that employee, despite being a fantastic fit from our perspective, was leaving after just 11 months. And that was because we had failed her. We'd not onboarded her effectively, we'd not ensured that she was supported and engaged and developed her and made sure she was aligned to our objectives and so on. And as a result, it became just a job for her, and a job that was easy to then decide to leave when another opportunity came up. And so that's something that we, to some extent, took as a catalyst for us improving the ways in which we do things. And I'll be really interested, please do post in the chat, whether you've had similar or other particular events in your organizations that have led you to this point where you're thinking, yeah, we need to do a better job because we can't accept the status quo and what's been done before. Because in all honesty, I've had a few. This is not the only time that I feel we could have done a hugely better job in terms of onboarding and managing our team. But we have done a lot over the last 5 years to get very good at this. And particularly over the last 2 or 3, we've been working with lots of organizations to implement a far better way to do it. Because I've done a lot with processes over the last 15 years across many businesses, but really in the last 2 or 3 is where we've really cracked a better approach. So let's talk about how bad onboarding is hurting your business. I just shared an example where I lost a perfectly excellent employee who took a long time to hire, and indeed expensive to hire. So there's the cost of hiring that person. When they then leave, we then have to hire another. There's also the business value. The faster that people get up to speed, the more value they can add. But by contrast, if they don't get up to speed quickly, then they're not adding that value in your organization. But also you're missing out on other opportunities that they could be taking advantage of. They'll make mistakes, which takes a huge amount of your team's time and that of its leaders. It can also result in poor decision making, which is a problem that hits you twice, because firstly, there's the good decision that could have been made. And then, of course, there's fixing the bad decision and spending all of that time over it. People who have not been onboarded effectively and aren't clear on your values and goals and things like that and ways of working will make poor decisions. You'll also end up with key person dependencies. If you're not able to onboard other people into the organization effectively, you'll end up with or at least you over rely on other people. You'll end up having key people that if they're out of the business for even a few days, it causes you significant pain. And also you risk not supporting career development, having low engagement of your employees, increasing the stress because they don't feel like they're productive and adding value and so on. And also the mistakes and how they interact with your clients can impact your brand reputation. And of course, as in the example with the employee that left after just 11 months with me, you've got employee churn and the pain that causes having to then rehire and so on. And actually, it's not even just each of those things, when you add them all together, we're talking huge amounts of money. And there are lots of different sources on this, and the numbers vary wildly because it depends a lot on what the role is. Depends on whether we're talking about the onboarding of a managing director or a ops manager or a mid-level manager or a team leader or someone at the lower levels in the organization. But typically it's going to cost you tens of thousands of pounds and sometimes even hundreds of thousands of pounds. I think the average is $132,000 or pounds or something. But I know, for example, a business owner who is a friend of mine, he had a failed hire recently with an MD, and he values the cost of that hire, that failed hire, at about 1.5 million because of the missed opportunities, the costs, the profit that he's missed out on as a result of that bad hire and that person not being set up well and aligned in the organization and so on. So it's incredibly expensive to have failed hires, and bad onboarding is a big part of that. But it's also not uncommon for teams to stall and avoid hiring again. That's certainly something that I've commonly made that mistake, where I've had pain points and as a result held back from hiring as quickly. And the great irony is that often the reason for not sorting out that employee experience and that onboarding is the time that it takes. But the reality is that the cost of not sorting it out is much higher, both in terms of money terms, but also in terms of time. And it's incredible when we work with clients and they say, oh yeah, no, I know I need to do it, but I've just not put the time aside. And then when we help them do that, they get the time, the return on investment, the break even of that time is in days, not weeks, and sometimes even faster. So it's a huge cost, and it doesn't just hurt new employees, it hurts existing employees as well. Those mistakes, those decision-making, the key person dependencies, the stress, the career development impact, and so on. All of those things hurt your team. So it's a really important area to do a good job of, particularly at the moment, particularly when many of you may be struggling to find great talent or keep it, or to get people up to speed. And we're in an economy at the moment where people are staying in their jobs a shorter period of time. It's harder to get the right people. There are more adverts out there for jobs than there's been in a very, very long time. And so it's a perfect time to make sure that this is an area that you're strong in rather than weak. So in terms of the mistakes that most organizations are making, and there's a list here, and I'll dive into a few, but I want you to have a look and really reflect on which of the ones that you think you're currently perhaps making with your existing onboarding. So we've got not setting clear goals, and then stopping too soon. So not setting okay, where do we actually want this onboarding to take this joiner? And then and making that too soon, like, oh yeah, day one, that's too soon for your onboarding. You want to be adding more value, getting to a point that they're actually productive and really adding value. Believing onboarding lives in HR. This is a really frustrating one for us in Air Manual, because of course, one of the fantastic things that we enable with our tool and consultants, and many of you are already Air Manual customers that have experienced this. One of the things that we can provide is support around onboarding, and we can provide that guidance and checklists and templates. But it's funny when I talk to some business owners, they look at this and go, oh yeah, HR. And I think the problem is that when you think about onboarding as being contractual onboarding, you know, the setting up of payroll and maybe their IT systems, and not really thinking about the entire journey, then you sell yourself short and you put yourself at risk of providing a really crappy onboarding experience, like I did many years ago. And so it's really important to own it as an organization, not just see it as an HR task. It's really more powerful than that. And you wouldn't do that with client onboarding. You wouldn't say, oh yeah, well, hopefully you wouldn't approach client onboarding as being something that, oh yeah, that's legal or that's finance. Hopefully you'd think of it as a cross-organizational important priority to make sure that you're onboarding your client the right way and serving them effectively. We've also got not fixing the foundation, so making sure that you've got clarity on values and your goals and things, and being able to share that with the team. Not having a home for documented processes, relying too much on training, coaching and support, which takes a huge amount of your team's time. And often the reason that you're hiring and bring people in is because they're busy and you're stretched. And so sometimes organizations rely on that internal training, coaching and shadowing, and find that for a period it gets worse, not better, when they hire, and it doesn't need to be like that. They also expect everyone to move at the same pace, and that every single employee that joins will all achieve the same things in the same amount of time. There are ways in which you can make it more consistent, and so including some of the ways in which we'll cover today. But people will move at different paces, and actually not even just, oh, there's slow people and fast people. Like I've seen it with team members that we've onboarded, where they'll have periods where they are faster and then a little bit slow, and they get stuck with something, and they get stuck with different things. And so your onboarding needs to reflect that, but also deprioritizing initiatives to improve. It's a common mistake to think, oh, well, I'll do it next time. I'll document this next time. I'll improve it next time. And whereas this time round, I'll just get them in the door. And that's a real mistake, because firstly, it holds you back from continuously improving and being in a better situation next time. But also we've found that the time invested up front saves you more time than doing it even for the first time with the first employee. And of course, every person you invite into the organization on board after that gets even more value. So there you go. So those are some of the mistakes that most organizations make, but I want to hear from you. So how many of these issues can you relate to in your organizations? Perhaps type in the chat, let me know which of these you relate to, or how many you relate to, whether it's all of them or none of them or some of them. Some of you I know well from the work that we've been doing with you, so really fantastic to see so many of you here. Thank you very much for joining. But yeah, I'd love to hear from you. So Liam, Chelsea, Gemma, Nathan, Andy, Holly, Mia, great to see all of you. Let me know in the chat how many of these, if you look down the list, feel like, yep, we're currently not quite hitting the mark on some of these. So I've got Paddy says 7 in the past. Yeah, I should hope so that it's in the past, Paddy. We've got very good at this now, but yeah, certainly all 7 were things that we fell victim to in the earlier days. Nathan says all of them. Andy says we're a startup, so we're looking at putting together a robust process. That's fantastic, Andy. Yeah, particularly if you're expecting to have rapid growth, then this puts you in a great position to be able to do that. I also find that point around the number 3 or the third one down, not fixing the foundations, thinking about onboarding can be a great way of approaching some of the foundations like values and your journey and your goals and things like that, and think about it from the perspective of bringing someone else in. Because if it's not easy enough for someone to come into the organization and understand, then it's probably not made simple enough. And Mia says 4, Gemma says at least 4 I'm currently looking at, and Liam says all at some point. Fantastic. Thank you very much for sharing. So I'd also be interested in, and how much do you think this is costing you? Like, what's the impact of this? Are we for your organization, based on the number of people that you're hiring and so on, gut feel, what's the kind of ballpark and range? Is this costing tens of thousands of pounds, hundreds of thousands of pounds, millions of pounds, like in the example of a friend of mine, or maybe you see it as not costing a huge amount, which I'd be really interested in. So it'd be great to see kind of what do you think in terms of the financial impact, because we really need you to identify whether this is something that's worth your time and effort to address. I highly believe that it is, of course, but let's make sure you do. So Chelsea says not having an LMS, so learning management system, to run our onboarding programs is the biggest issue, but the Home for Content Resource Centre is top of mind for me. Cool, that's brilliant. Thank you for sharing that, Chelsea. Yeah, there's a few different issues that will affect people differently, and some we emphasise. Liam says about 50k is where he thinks the current cost of the business. And of course, it will vary, as I say, based on your organizational size, how many people you're hiring each year, if you like, what level in the organization you're hiring at, and your gross cost, your payroll costs and so on. So have a little think, chuck a number out there, little range or a big range. Give me a really big range if you're just not sure. What's the minimum and maximum that you think it might be? Have a go. It's a useful exercise to apply that thinking and try and have a basic thing. Gemma says, I'm not sure, but a lot. What a cop-out, Gemma. No, I'm not joking. It's fine. Good. All right, then. So I'll let you ruminate on that, but it's an important exercise to think about what's the impact, and often it's huge. So here's what you can do in terms of a better approach to onboarding. So what this looks like, a better approach to onboarding, would mean that you set clear goals and you don't stop until they're achieved, that your onboarding is clear and structured until it delivers the goals that you've set out, rather than just, oh, here's a quick checklist. Have you got your system? Have you got your desk and so on? Instead, really taking them through step by step to achieve the goals and make sure that that's the case. Secondly, you want to hold teams accountable. You want to make sure that people are actually following the processes, that the managers are engaging with them, that the teams are developing and using and improving onboarding. There's a brilliant phrase that I use so much ever since I first heard it, which is, you get what you tolerate. And so in your organization, if you tolerate like weak following of onboarding processes and things like that, then that is what you will get. And so if you want to make sure that your employees have a better experience in the organization, you need to raise the bar in terms of your expectations, raise what you're willing to tolerate from managers and team leaders and so on, rather than saying, oh, well, sales do a really good job of onboarding and they follow the processes and so on. Ops, not so much. They're not so keen. and just leaving it like that. If you leave it like that, then you will end up with a department or whole parts of the organization that are not in a great state. And if you just tolerate it, then you will continue to get it, and it will get worse. And particularly, I've worked with large organizations, talking hundreds or even thousands of people, where that has been tolerated, and there are pockets of brilliance, and then whole departments, functions, and so on. It all, forgive me, but the am I all right to swear on here? Anyone gonna have an issue if I swear? No, we're okay. Like, shit falls downwards, right? So if as a leader, or if you've got a department leader or a manager who does stuff in a really poor way, that shit falls, and it will land on the people below them. And it means that you will create whole functions and departments and teams that perform really poorly and continue that same level of poor performance. So hold your teams accountable, set the bar really high. Thirdly, sort the foundations. Embrace onboarding as a catalyst for change. If you don't have a set of core values that are defined in your organization with some examples of how they get applied, use this as the catalyst to start putting that together. The aim of putting together something like the onboarding is not to suddenly create a huge hole or a huge need to create a lot of documents immediately, but it should create a bit of a gap and an opportunity for you to close that gap. And so you can really embrace this as a catalyst for addressing foundations that you really know need to be in place, whether it's clarity on goals, clarity on values, clarity on how those get applied, how you manage people, how you develop people, all those sorts of things that a new employee wants to know and understand so that they can deliver effectively for you. It's worth making sure those are in place. Meeting rhythm is another great foundation. If you've not got regular one-to-ones between managers and their direct reports, it's another great foundation to make sure that you use this as a catalyst to put in place. Fourth, giving your processes a home, making sure that you're not in a situation where it, again, can be tolerated that someone makes a mistake and you say, oh, missed a step, and you say, oh, why didn't you do that? And they go, oh, I didn't know I had to do that. You don't want to be in a position where that's okay, that people just don't know how to do stuff and they forget, and that's fine. Instead, if you can say, well, did you check where we keep all of our processes? Now, obviously, I'd love that to be air manual, and for many of you, it is. But set that as the expectation. You want people to feel, you want the expectation to be check air manual, or check wherever the home is for your processes to find out how to do this properly and make sure you follow that process. Does that make sense? Yeah, cool, got nodding, thank you. Also, take a checklist first approach. Make it easy on people. If you're over relying on training, coaching, and support, then you're relying on a very variable approach that is difficult for the employee to follow and see what needs to be next. But also it creates a huge time sink and pull from other members of the team that need to then provide that training, coaching, and support. Whereas the more that you can provide through simple to follow checklists, the easier it is, and the faster they'll be able to add value. Sixth, put the new joiner in the driving seat. You can actually make it possible that they are the ones that lead the onboarding, which is incredibly empowering, but also frees up you and your managers from managing the onboarding of that new joiner. And I'll give some specific examples a little bit later. And finally, be agile. Prioritize hard, continuously improve. Use this as a fantastic way in which you can continue to improve the way in which your organizations work. One of my favorite things when I'm onboarding, when we're onboarding new members of staff, is that they might hit a particular part of our onboarding and ask a question or hit an issue. And I'll say, yeah, you're right. I haven't included that in the onboarding. You're absolutely spot on. And so I'll answer the question, and then I'll say, now please update the onboarding. And that's it. I never have to answer that question again. And so if you can embrace this as an approach to make sure that you're continuously improving what you're doing, you'll find out that you massively reduce mistakes, and that you save hundreds or even thousands of hours of leadership time. It can be hugely transformational if you adopt it in that way. Does that make sense? Thumbs up for better approach to onboarding, or bought into, yes, this is what we need as a better approach. Good. And I will tell you and show you exactly how to apply this. So in case you're looking at this going, there's a lot there. How do I approach it? We're going to make that really easy to follow in step by step. Okay, so let's move on to the how to set up onboarding. Well, onboarding that actually works, not normal onboarding. Normal onboarding, as we've established, costs a lot of money. So instead, we're going to make it so it actually works. And as you might expect from us at Air Manual, we've got this amazing step-by-step checklist to help you do it. So I will switch my screen to the actual interactive version of this. There we go. Hopefully you can now see something, a web page that says set up by employee onboarding. And if I scroll up and down, it works. Brilliant. Marvelous. So this is a real checklist in the Air Manual that is available, and we'll share a link so that's available to all of you. And for those of you more familiar with Air Manual, you'll know that I can click use this checklist to now follow it along. And there's a load of guidance in here, including some of the things we've already covered, like the 11 ways that bad onboarding hurts businesses and the 7 mistakes that most organizations make and how long it will take to set up on employee onboarding. But we're going to go into the how. So at a high level, there are 3 major parts to setting up amazing onboarding that actually works. The first is to map out the onboarding process. And even if you do only that, you will get a huge amount of value from following this process. Because even if you do only that, and let's say that you've got someone starting tomorrow or yesterday, like just getting that, mapping out that onboarding process will mean that even if you do have to spoon feed the employee, you can do so in a very structured way that's going to help achieve your goals. Ideally, you complete that, but also you then make it self-service. You make it so that the employees can drive it themselves, but also that, and even get to the point where they can continuously improve it. And that is going to save you a huge amount of time. Thirdly, you then start to use it and improve it. You should treat it as an organic, living, breathing, needing to be updated kind of document or set of checklists and so on that you can use to massively reduce mistakes and free up your time and improve the way in which you do things. So those are the kind of 3 buckets of things. We'll talk a little bit more in detail about each of these, but there's a hell of a lot more detail in this checklist that you can follow. So let's go deep though into mapping out the onboarding process, because for many of you, that's where most of the effort is going to be needed upfront and where you'll get most of the bang for buck as quickly as possible. So the first thing that you need to do when mapping out the onboarding process is to agree the goals. Now, we'd recommend some goals like these. We'd recommend saying, making new team members feel welcome, supported, and productive. Getting team members happy and confident in all areas of their role. Making great use of everyone's time. So set yourself some goals for what your onboarding process is actually going to do. And in fact, you can make them really personal and specific to the team, particularly when you get specific about the role that it's going to be. For example, if I'm hiring an Air Manual consultant, someone in our organization like Jessica, who's on the call right now, some of you will have worked with to help document your processes and onboarding within your businesses. There are specific goals and expectations of where I want to get them to when a new consultant joins our organization. And the first time round that we did it, I didn't know exactly how long it would take. And it was really interesting then finding out that some areas were a lot faster than I expected, which is really, really good. And made Jessica, for example, when she came in, really happy and productive and able to add a lot of value really, really quickly. So start off by identifying what are the goals, where are you trying to get your new joiners to, both at a company level, so just anyone joining the organization, but then you can get specific by role. So you can say, and then if it's a salesperson or a developer or operations person or whatever it is, what are we trying to get them being able to do? In fact, I can click this as done. There we go. So imagine we've done that. We've agreed our goals. We then need to get clear on the roles and responsibilities. So initially, I'd recommend pick a specific role that you're perhaps hiring into imminently or have just hired into. You can, of course, repeat this process for other roles in future, but it's good to have a good starting point. And identify, as I say, what are the goals for them. But also you might identify that, so you've got someone joining in the organization who is actually going to have many roles at some point, and it might not be immediately out of the gate that that's the case. And in fact, I'd encourage it isn't, that on day one, you don't give them all the roles and responsibilities, but you add over time. So I've got team members who have joined, for example, in my software business, SpiderGap, they joined as a customer success representative, then took on the role of account management, then taking on the role of being a support rep, then, in fact, in one case, then taking on a role of actually taking on a finance role, taking on accounts payable and receivable, because that was something they were really interested in. And so they built up those roles over time, but I didn't give them all immediately. It's too much. And so I'd recommend onboarding into each of the roles in an order that makes sense. So identify which role will you be creating the onboarding for first, and what are the responsibilities of that role? So in the example I said, like a customer success representative, there are a series of responsibilities that they need to complete. Or for an air manual consultant, for example, they have responsibilities such as conducting discovery and demo calls with people that want to see whether air manuals are a good fit, conducting mapping calls to help our clients to document their process and onboarding and so on. Like, there are a series of responsibilities that they need to be able to achieve, which of course then helps you think about how the onboarding is going to help them get to that point. Okay, any immediate questions? Feel free to post in the chat or wave at me and I'll stop and pause, but otherwise I'm seeing lots of nodding, so that's all good. Cool. And of course, this is interactive. If you do use this checklist to go through this process, you can type in these and capture it just to help you along. Once you've got clear on the roles and responsibilities, you can then create checklists and placeholders, which means mapping out the onboarding process. So creating the checklist to onboard the new joiner, getting others to support that new joiner, but also you can create placeholders for your standard operating procedures, those SOPs. So for example, when I onboarded a finance administrator in May last year, she took on a series of SOPs, processes that helped her do things like reviewing timesheets and capturing invoices and sending invoices and chasing invoices and so on. And each of those was documented at least at a very high level, so that she knew she could quickly pick up those responsibilities and do them at the standard that was required. And if she had questions, if she hit issues, if she made mistakes, we could then improve those. So it provided a really great starting point. Now you probably already start to feel like, oh, that feels like there's a lot there, like checklists for their managers and buddies and so on, and checklists and placeholders for SOPs and so on. But the good news is, we've got a load of templates and guidance to help you. We've got a lot of this stuff out of the box, and we can provide further guidance and support to help you apply it in your organization. But we have checklists for onboarding the new joiner and for supporting them, and can give guidance on placeholders for SOPs. We even have some checklists for other areas of your business. So do reach out and ask for us, just in case we've already got one that we can provide you as an example or as a starting point. But the aim isn't to necessarily fully document, well, it isn't to fully document everything at this point. The most important thing is you're mapping it out. You want at least the structure, the key things that the employee needs to do or learn or be able to do, or whatever it is. Okay. Any questions on creating checklists and placeholders? No? All good? Cool. Then let's sprinkle on the wow factor. There's a temptation sometimes to use a lot of videos and screenshots when creating checklists, and they can be really, really valuable, but don't overdo it. Number of reasons for that. One is that actually they go out of date really quickly. If you do screenshots and videos, it's really, as soon as you want to make any change to them, it's now extra effort for you to do it. Whereas a series of steps or bullet points is really quick to update. So avoid overcooking that wow factor, but do sprinkle it in, because people do enjoy a number of ways in which you can make them feel really welcome. And that goes way beyond adding some screenshots and videos and things. It includes getting in touch with them before they join the organization and staying in touch. It involves welcoming them on day one, helping them to build relationships with the team, ensuring that they have a full schedule of activities, sharing your excitement at having them join, and sure, make it pretty, chuck in the odd picture, etc., of the team, so that people feel more engaged and supported and so on. But sprinkling in those things makes a huge difference. There's various ways in which we do that at Air Manual, and it's resulted in some nice stories, like when Daniel joined and he got his gift that was specifically chosen based on what we knew he would like, based on a gift form that we sent to him a few weeks before he even joined the organization. So that by the time that he got the gift, he wasn't even thinking about the fact that he'd filled in a form telling us that he liked spiced rum, but instead he got a special one that he hadn't had before and could really enjoy it. And I've had loads of examples of that, where those little touches have made such a big difference to people, including, I remember a particular joiner who she left an organization after only 6 months to come and join us, and felt bad about that to that employer. Excited to join us, but felt bad about it. But the nice thing was that she received she had her last day at that other company and was like, oh, I feel really bad, and got home, opened up her email, and she's got this really clear, here's what's going to happen on day 1 of your onboarding. And then of course there was a knock at the door, and she got a gift of a really nice gin, because that was what she had identified. And so just nice little touches like that meant that she was like, okay, yeah, no, I am making the right decision. This company does provide such a better option. And that's where you want to be. I think there's a temptation for leaders to think, oh, well, and frankly, I'll say this, it sounds a bit arrogant, but I've had this directly to my face. It's like, oh, Alexis, well, you do it like that, but we probably won't do it to that standard. And that's such a shame, for like, again, you get what you tolerate. What I'm describing is not a huge load of things that I'm super thoughtful about and manage on an ongoing basis. All of this is documented and done by other team members. I do not send out the gifts. I don't send out the email for the onboarding. All of it's created as processes that other people follow to create that great experience. And you know what? The employee doesn't mind, because what they value is the experience and the fact that they've been thought about and cared about. Okay. Happy with that? Does that make sense about how to sprinkle on the wow factor? Fantastic. Next, review it with the team. Everything that you come up with, I'm sure, will be brilliant, but you should reflect on the goals and go back through the process. Have you achieved what you wanted for the particular role that you're onboarding into? And then review it with the rest of your team, the people that new joiner will be working with, HR if appropriate, and feel free to share it with the team at Air Manual as well. We'd be very happy to take a look at what you've put together, give some suggestions, tips, and so on. We'd really, really love, we appreciate you investing the time and doing a good job of this. So do share it with us, and we'll happily review it and provide tips and so on. Ultimately, your aim is to achieve the goals of your onboarding. So you'll want to review against that with yourself and with your team if possible, and make changes, of course. There we go. So that's how to map out the onboarding process. Any questions about that before I move on? Oh, fantastic. Beyond that, once you've even if you stop there, that's hugely valuable. Even if you just did that on day 1 with an employee, worked out, here's the steps that are going to be involved. This is what we're going to cover on their day 1. We're doing a nice couple of things. We're going to make sure that they get their branded polo shirt, whatever it is. There's a few little things that already for most businesses will create a massively better onboarding experience than most organizations have. Okay. The way that you then take this up another level to free up your time and that of your team is to make this self-service. So you can review what additional content is needed to do that, and whether it's additional deep guidance. Maybe it is for example, for a development role within our business, we'll have a 5-minute video which provides a tour of our code base. Done by Paddy, who's essentially acting that role of CTO to kind of go through that process, or having a list of here's the tech tools that we use, or whatever. Adding in that essential additional content is really, really powerful. You don't have to do it alone though, because then once you've done that, you can choose the best people to write and review it. You might want to delegate it out to other members of the team so that they can put it together. Then add in that essential content, add in that detail, and make it engaging with screenshots, making it tidy and so on. And again, it's a great opportunity. Share it with our team, and we can really give you tips and suggestions on how to make it easy for the employee to follow themselves, but also engaging. Okay. Then once you've made it self-service, use it and improve it. Don't leave it on the shelf. It will go dusty, even though it sits in the cloud. It will just sit there. It won't get improved. It doesn't get used. You've got to remember, you get what you tolerate. So raise your expectation. Make sure that people are expected to use and tick off the checklist as they go along, and that any issues that occur, you make the process better. So make sure that you kick off that process for your next new joiner, manage it, check the improvements are being made regularly, and review the feedback and lessons learned. One of the things that we do in all of our onboarding checklists, and it's in our templates as well, is one of the last steps is, okay, how useful was this? Any ways in which you'd improve this? So we're giving the employee an opportunity to reflect and share. Okay, so use that as an opportunity to use and improve your process. Okay, so quick recap, map out the onboarding process, make it self-service, use it and improve it. Any questions on how to set up onboarding that actually works? And as I say, we can share this checklist with you, but also our team are available to help you to do a good job of this and answer any questions that you've got. But any immediate questions right now? Not at the moment. No? Cool. Excellent. Now we're going to up the ante and say, what if you have less than 2 weeks before that new joiner starts, or even that they start in a day or less? So as mentioned before, start with mapping out the onboarding process. Follow those steps, agree the goals, clear on roles and responsibilities, create some checklists and placeholders, sprinkle on a little bit of the wow factor, review with the team. Even doing that at a high level will have a huge impact. And of course, use templates to get you there faster. We've got them already well thought out. We've tested, we've used them within our own organizations. We've used them with many of you, some of you, and also many other businesses that are using Air Manual. So use the templates to get there faster. Then if you're going to get onto the self-service, time box it. So rather than make it a forever exercise, work out what you feel like you can happily invest within a short period of time. Maybe it's 2, 3, 4, 5 hours. But feel good about time boxing it, because our experience shows that you get huge return on investment of that time. Spending that time, for example, let's say that one of the things that you need a salesperson to have is a knowledge of all your products and services. Standard onboarding in a lot of organizations would basically involve another member of the sales team, or maybe the sales manager, or even the business leader, training that person one-to-one on a bit about our products and services. Now, ideally, of course, it's not done that way. You either have a checklist that goes through each of the products and explains it, or maybe a step for each of the products, and then a video with the business leader explaining them, or the sales manager explaining them. Create some videos for those. And as a result, they don't need to do that every single time they've got a new joiner. So that would be one example. Like if you want to train someone in what the products and services, you can do that. And you can imagine that, yes, doing it, getting the sales manager perhaps to create a series of 5 videos, one for each of the products, that might take slightly longer than if they sat down with that first employee. But firstly, it's unlikely to derail them as much. Secondly, the employee, when they forget something, they can refer back. So as a result, the sales manager doesn't get follow-up questions and have to pick them up on stuff. And of course, any new employees that you add after that point, they aren't having to reinvest that same time. And so what we find is that even with the additional, a little bit of extra time to write some of this down, maybe actually most of the time it's as fast to do it that way, and you get huge benefits, not even just for ongoing hires, but even that first hire, because of reduced questions and mistakes and all this kind of stuff. Okay, but you can time box it. And then keep improving it. Accept that it won't be perfect straight out of the gate. You are going to need to use it and test it and improve it, and accept that there may even just be gaps. You might have someone who joins on day one, and sure, you haven't got your security training built into it yet. And so that's going to be done directly with them. But use that as an opportunity to capture it there and then. Even if it means sitting with the new employee and saying, oh, sorry about this, Tim, we haven't got this part in the checklist yet because it's a new area for us, but here's the topics that I'm going to cover with you, and I'll just tap them in. Okay, now let me explain each of these to you so that you're at least using it as an opportunity to improve it, so that next time round it's slightly better. Because honestly, what we've built and the way that we do our processes and onboarding, it's not like we're smart, but we're not super geniuses that did all this overnight. It took time to get it to the level that it's at, but we got a huge amount of value the very first time that we implement some of this stuff. So start with something and keep on building and improving it. And get help from our experts. I've mentioned that we provide templates. You can also reach out for reviews, but also I highly recommend that you have a call with our team in which we can do this with you. And in fact, if you've not used Air Manual before, as part of a demo and discovery call with us, we can actually even set some of this stuff up for you. But also we do offer some paid consulting options. If you and your team are really strapped for time and you'd like some support, we can either offer done with you and done for you services to help this supercharge this and get this over the line for you. So do get help from our team. And it delivers a huge ROI. Some of you may know Georgia at Right Business Results. Give me a little wave if you know Georgia. No, okay, well, 1, 2. So Georgia's fantastic. She's got amazing business at Right Business Results, where they help people, they help business owners essentially write books and get their books published and out there, and getting them in top 10s and bestsellers and so on. And Georgia's really, really smart. Business been growing really fast, but she was starting to struggle with onboarding new joiners. It was taking her a lot of time. And as a result of working with us to implement this, she got a 4,000% ROI. She calculated it, not me, on the time and money spent. She saved 18 hours in the first week of what we did. And she spent less than 18 hours in that first week doing it. So the return of investment on the time is really effective, but also it had no disruption on the hiring process. She was worried that hiring the salesperson that she was hiring, like that having to set up the onboarding would slow that down, and it didn't. Partly because of the hours saved. But now, not only was she able to bring in new joiners, but now her team are much more confident selling on instead of the business owner. And that includes cross-selling and upselling across the team, because the entire team have got better understanding of their product, services and pricing. And I've experienced that firsthand in conversation with Georgia's team. We've worked with many, many wonderful organizations as well, including, as I say, some that are on this call right now. Another one was Buttercup's training. We set up their onboarding with them over a few weeks. We turned 74 pages of SOPs into that were in Word, replaced them with 8 simple checklists. And as a result, that unblocked a major obstacle to them scaling up. They onboarded 5 new team members, and frankly, they had team members kind of in the organization waiting to be onboarded, but their team was so busy they weren't even able to make bandwidth. And so hence they were really struggling with how are we even going to make the time to create the onboarding? But we helped them do that. And as a result, they got those team members onboarded and unblocked that thing, and got a 400% ROI on the time invested. And as Bryony said, it's given her confidence that the team is now using a standardized approach. Which actually, that was an unintended benefit, was that actually the team were improving the quality of what they're doing and reducing mistakes and doing things more efficiently as well. And one of the other nice things to see was how quickly they were able to make improvements to their processes, both in terms of quality and efficiency. And then, of course, our own businesses at Spider Gap and Air Manual, we've been iteratively improving our approaches. We find that now anyone in any role in the business, consultant, salesperson, developer, finance administrator, we get them upskilled and onboarded and delivering value in their first week with less than an hour of the manager's time. And I can say that confidently with at least 2 Air Manual consultants now in the room who experienced that firsthand in their first week of getting set up and running so that they could have customer calls, and yet spent in total between them an hour and a half. And how was I spending that time? It was coaching and mentoring them rather than training. It was adding that value rather than just spoon feeding them, here's what our products and services are. We also find that the team rave about the onboarding experience. Some of you will have heard it directly from them. You can also check out Glassdoor and see the reviews that we get, but people really appreciate it. And our processes are being continuously improved. We create a culture where people are expecting to have things well organized, and that there's an opportunity to add their own ideas and improvements wherever they can. Okay. So when's the right time to start? Now. If you've got 2 weeks to go or whatever, in fact, post in the chat, let me know when have you got to next new joiner, and the answer might have been a few days ago or whatever. Post in the chat, let me know when's your next joiner coming in. While you post that, I will answer Andy's question, who asks, can it integrate with ATS, which I suspect he's referring to application tracking systems. Is that right, Andy? Give me a nod. Marvelous. So we don't currently support integrations with application tracking systems. It's something that we can certainly look at. So it'd be great to jump on a call at some point and explore what you're thinking around the kind of need there and where it would add value. I must admit, in our experience, and bear in mind that, like, for example, for our business, when we're hiring developers, we will get typically 1,000, 2,000 applicants, and we take them through a process with an applicant tracking system. And then, of course, we get to the other end of the process, and you've got relatively few people that you're then bringing into the organization. And typically, there's a few things that are then going to happen. So typically what we then do is say, okay, at the point that we've said, yeah, we're going to make an offer, we then have our checklist that we would follow, our onboarding checklist, that would then pick up from there and support that process. So it's not got an integration, but the team would all know we now need to do something, and therefore we're going to follow that process.
Just because we'll be regularly onboarding new care staff, and it's kind of, it's just trying to negate that duplication of work, because they have a care planning software that they have to get signed up to, a referral app, an employee assistance program, and then, and there's all these things you have to set them up on separately. So where you can get integration, it just makes that bit smooth, bit slicker, or a bit easier. You're not repeating the same task 4 or 5 times for different solutions.
Agreed, and as a result, integrations are certainly something that we're looking at. However, one thing that I'd perhaps suggest in the meantime, and indeed this applies, like whatever we do with integrations, there'll always be some system, some whatever that will also need like a manual thing or whatever. So what I'd recommend is that you have a step in the process, which could be done by the employee, to then do something. So for example, it might be, let's say that you've got some HR system. It might be that you say, right, when you've reached this step in the onboarding process, or you've sent the contract to HR and you've done this, you've done that, now you need to log into our HR portal or whatever it is, and tick this, or mark that you've completed this, or send send a message to this person. So you can actually, again, like make it self-service, put them in the driving seat so that they do those things for you. And that's we had an example of that with another client who they set up distributor onboarding within Air Manual, and so they had a series of steps the distributor had to complete, including sending over the contract and all these sorts of things. And then it's like, okay, and then there's a step. Now you need to email our legal team with this contract, then tick this and let your distributor account manager know. And here's a template email. You can use to send them an email, make it really easy. So there, as much as we'd love to be able to automate with more and more tools as we go on, there'll always be things like that where you kind of still need a manual step, but including that, making it easy for someone to do is really powerful. Does that answer your question, Andy? Cool, brilliant, thank you. And we've got people saying when they're next bringing people in. So I've got someone starting on Monday. For those watching the recording, today is Thursday. So as a result, Mia's going to be busy over the next few days. But note that, as I said, like whatever you can put in place, even just mapping out at a high level what that onboarding should look like, is a great start, and you can keep on building on that. I highly recommend getting a call in with a member of our team to help you supercharge that wherever possible. We've got Gemma saying 2 on Monday and then 1 on the following week. Fantastic, Gemma. So again, similar answer for that one. If you've not got some of this stuff in place, then I highly recommend getting support to do that. And even if you haven't got imminent plans to hire, which I think all of you on this call, looking at who we've got, I think all of you on this call have got plans to hire quite soon. Give me a nod if that's the case, and no if that's not the case. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I think most people have, but if you're, again, for those watching the recording, even if you haven't got plans to hire right now, it's not a bad idea to start getting some of this stuff in place. If you're looking at the panicked look on the faces of some of the people that have got 2 or 3 days before they bring someone in, they're thinking you're in an enviable position. So you may want to start putting at least some of the basics in place. So highly recommend the right time to start is now. I would welcome you to utilize our team to do that. For free, you can have a call with a member of our team. Go to airmanual.link/demo. If you've not had one before, then please make sure that you do that ASAP. If you're already working with us, then you've probably already agreed the next call with your Air Manual consultant. But if you haven't, then please do get that arranged ASAP. And I encourage you to do it now rather than waiting, because we all know how it is. We're all busy. We all think, yes, I absolutely need to do this, and will do at some point in the future. And I highly recommend you follow this link, go over there, find a date that suits you, even if you can't spare tomorrow or Monday. Getting it in the diary will mean that we're able to help you start making progress. We'll hold you accountable in a really nice way and provide you with lots of support and templates and things to make sure that you're fast. Because our number one core value, I talked about values a few times today, our number one core value, focus on impact. We're all about the results that we get for you. And so we want you to be in a position where your employees are adding lots of value and not costing you loads through bad hires and so on. So that's what I wanted to cover with you today. I hope you found it useful. Please do let me know feedback in the chat, and I'd also welcome some Q&A. What questions have you got for me? I've covered a lot, so I probably appreciate that it's a little bit drinking from the fire hose. But what questions have you got for me? I'll help wherever I can. Andy?
I got basically a colleague, a friend basically I met up with earlier this week, sent me the hair invitation. That's how I piggybacked on this from Dawn Spear. I haven't got a clue about the cost or anything like that.
Oh, okay, cool. Of Air Manual and all those sorts of things. Great question. Very happily cover that. Let me switch my screen. Short answer is highly reasonable and a lot less than bad onboarding is costing your business. So that's good news. I'll use pounds for you here. And you'll see that we have a starter and team plans shown here. Starter gives you up to 5 users. I think based on your organization, you're going, do you know broadly how many employees, and feel free to give me a range.
When you say users, do you mean?
So this would be how many people would be accessing the checklist within your organization and all that kind of stuff. So that would be essentially probably yourself, managers, employees, and so on that are interacting with the checklists.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it'd be 5 maximum, yeah, for now.
Okay, so yeah, so the starter plan will give you up to 5. If you then need more, the team plan covers up to 10, which is our most popular one. You can, if you go for annually, that works out as just £119 per month to cover all 10 people. Additional users beyond that are just £5 per month plus sales taxes. And sometimes we're asked, how confident can we be of getting return on investment and so on? I would say incredibly. In fact, I would go so far as to say, if the price is a concern, then we're thinking about the wrong way around, because I would expect that we're not saving people enough time in using the tool if we're not expecting to get way more than this back per month from the team. And in fact, we offer an impact guarantee if you're on the team plan, where you get probably in 3 months of your money back. Yeah, we work with you to make sure that happens.
If you sign up for annual for the starter, then it's 566 for the year, isn't it? For the 20% off.
Yeah, so it works out as on 50. £59 times 12, so it would be 708 for the year. So that 20% discount's already applied. If I switch to monthly, you'll see that's what it would be normally.
Okay, I'm with you. Okay, is that plus VAT or is that VAT included?
That's plus VAT, so VAT's on top of that.
Yeah. Okay.
Cool.
Care industry, mate, you don't claim VAT back, so you're knackered on that one.
So sorry, the care industry don't get to claim VAT back. Oh, that's
you don't charge it and you can't claim it back.
Sorry.
Not your fault.
True, but I still feel bad. Right. Does that answer your question, Andy? Any other questions for me? Good. Cool. And I'll switch back to this one. Any other questions? Gemma, Chelsea, Holly, Mia? No. Not shaking heads, nothing? All good? Was it useful? Yeah, yeah. How quickly are you going to start working on onboarding?
Imminently.
Imminently. Nice, Gemma. Love that answer. Have you got your next call arranged with a member of our team to explore that yet, or not yet?
We haven't yet. Oh gosh, sorry, the automatic lights keep going off, keep going into the dark.
You have to keep suddenly waving your arms to get the lights back on. Oh, fantastic. Cool. Well, I do hope you get that booked in now and get that scheduled with the team. As I say, there's no the call with the team free. There's no commitment, even if we're just helping you kind of consolidate what you've got and help you utilize the checklist and the templates and sharing those with you. Very happy to do that. Obviously, our expectation is that you see the tool, and like for some of you, you've seen it before, but for those of you that Air Manual is kind of new to you, you've hopefully got a little taste for what we've had there. But there's so much more that we could show. So please do have a call with the team, see how quickly you can get huge value, because the impact we've had for a lot of organizations is amazing. Any other questions, comments, feedback? No? Cool. Okay. Excellent. Jessica, Paddy, Kangai, anything else to add? Any other questions or anything else you feel I missed?
Should we let people know where to very quickly find the onboarding checklist that you shared so that they can take a look before we share all the resources?
Absolutely. I can see this is why Jessica's super smart and helps people achieve great results. Here we go. Let's go. So within Air Manual, when you're logged in, you can go to the help center. So if you've already got Air Manual accounts, then you can click on the help center, and within here you've got a load of help articles, hopefully organized using Air Manual. We have a folder on Air Manual onboarding, or indeed you could type in onboarding and it would come up. And then there's that process for setting up employee onboarding. And then from this, it actually does link to the templates that are available. For example, for getting started in the company, there's then a template, and you can see it's all created out for you with some placeholders. And if you've already got a Air Manual workspace, you can click copy to my workspace, and it'll drop it straight into your workspace to carry on working on it. We'll share some links afterwards as well if you've not got access to an Air Manual workspace to go and see these things. But for those of you that have, you can already access these. And of course, arrange a call with us and we'll help you get access to this and loads of other templates and things. We've got templates for lots of different things, including things like employee development and performance management and performance reviews and things like that. We've got loads of great guides and processes that you can provide to your teams, all interactive, all easy to make changes to, and so on. Okay, cool. Happy with that, Jessica? Anything else I missed? Cool, excellent. Paddy, Kangai, anything else? No? Cool. Any other questions? No? All right then. So please do arrange a call with our team. They are wonderful. The feedback that I hear regularly, like I go to business events, I meet up with various entrepreneurs, and I speak at events and so on, and people actively come up to me and just randomly go, by the way, Kangai's amazing, or Jessica's fantastic, and they tell me some of the amazing things that they've been helped to achieve. So please do reach out to them, get some time with them, experience it for yourself, and indeed experience the platform. The tool is amazing. It's we're really big on making it user-friendly, easy to update, easy to continuously improve. So do get a chance to take a look at it. You'll find that it's, we over the years, and particularly as a process consultant, I've worked with a lot of tools, and most are incredibly clunky that as a result end up sat on the shelf and people don't update them. And the key about Air Manual is that we built it in such a way to make it really easy to update, really easy to use, and really super friendly. So I hope you've found that useful. Thank you so much for those of you that provided feedback and so on. Really appreciate it. And if there's any other questions or anything I can help with, then do just reach out. But otherwise, thank you so much for joining. If you're watching the recording, thank you for watching the recording. Please do let us know whether you found it useful. Do share on social media. and your experience and some of the key takeaways that you've got. And of course, let us know how you use it. I want to see real impact and happy employees and screenshots of messages and emails that you've received from your employees about how what an amazing experience they've had. Okay, fantastic. Thank you all. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thanks, Alexis.
Cheers. Thank you. Thank you, Andy. Thank you, Gemma. Thanks, Holly, Mia, everyone. Cheers.